Max Sterling, welcome to LarpMix. I was out shopping the other day at a department store, and I found something that I thought was pretty awesome and wanted to share with you all. And it's the Nerf Modulus Ghost Ops Chronobarrel. And what that is it's a device that attaches to the end of your Nerf blaster that measures how many darts are shot, so you can use as a dart counter. It also measures feet per second or meters per second and tell you how fast the darts are going. And it's a really cool little device, and they make other ones that you can buy online, but they're like $60, maybe $100 for some of them. So when I saw this, I was amazed because I caught it on sale and they were $2.25 US, which is dirt cheap for something like this. My only regret is they only had 2 of them on the shelf. Obviously I bought both of them. So we're going to take a look at what I did to sort of modify mine a little bit, but I want to go ahead and just show it to you here right now. And this is what it looks like. So it is just a barrel attachment. Now, of course, this is after I modified it. So it's just a barrel attachment. And it has a rail on the bottom so you can attach foregrips and stuff. There's a little sight on top. But basically this just clicks on the end. And then up top you have a little screen that's about, an inch square. And you just slide a button over and it turns on. Now, I have it set for 6 darts because that's how many was in the blaster I was using, but you can use these very simple plus and minus signs that are on here to increase or decrease how many darts are in there. And if you want to test how fast it's going, you can just flip the other switch and it'll bring up all that information. And the good thing about this is you can just switch from feet per second to meters, and it's very easy to do. So that way, no matter where you're at, what system of measurement you're using, you can use this little device. Now, I thought that this would be pretty cool for just if you're playing a game. And obviously, if you're using Nerf blasters, you're probably playing something sci-fi, dystopian, modern, near future, cyberpunk, or something like that. So this should fit right in. And of course, I did it up here to be a little bit more modern because I was playing a Hellboy LARP. I wanted to use this for that, and I made it sort of, modern looking, and they require orange on the end, so I left this orange. But a lot of games I play don't require any orange on them, and where I live doesn't require that by law. So usually I paint all this as well, but for this particular game, they wanted orange, so I just left this all orange, so I didn't even have to paint it. But you could very easily come back in here and paint this as well and make it black or whatever color you want to be. So now, this doesn't work with all Nerf blasters, unfortunately. You're going to need to have one that has an end that looks like that. So it's the same type of end that a Modulus would have on it. But if you do, then you can take this and it just slides right on the barrel, just like any other sort of accessory would. And there you go. Now it looks a little bit goofy on this particular blaster, but if you had one that was a little bit bigger, if you had a Modulus, it lines up real nice. but on this, I think this is a Strife. You know, it looks a little bit goofy, but if I turn it on, it'll still do what I need it to do, and I'll give you a little demo here in a second as to the counter and everything. As far as feet per second, they say it'll measure up to 300, which is pretty fast. Now keep in mind you're real close to the barrel, so it's going to give you, you know, a little bit higher reading than if you're shooting through something to measure velocity or speed. However, this, I've seen it measure up to 105, because the game I was at, a guy brought a modified Nerf blaster, and he was shooting through and it was measuring a little bit over 100. So I know for a fact it'll do a little better than 100, but they say it'll do up to 300, so that's up to you. But if you run a game, if you have people that are primarily using blasters with this type of end on it, this type of barrel, you could just use this to test them. So I mean, no more having to have expensive or fancy or elaborate gadgets to test the feet per second or stuff. You could just use something like this. And even though I got mine on sale and got a great deal, you can find these online right now. The same store I bought mine at, I think they're $7.99 on their website right now, which is still really inexpensive. But the thing is, you just make sure that the blaster you use has the correct end on there. If not, I'm sure you could dismantle this whole thing and somehow rig this inside and maybe cut this off and mount it somewhere else. If you were, you know, really wanting to do some serious modification, I'm willing to bet you could, and it wouldn't probably be that hard. You're gonna have to use some putties and stuff to fill in holes and stuff to attach things in places, but you could use just the internals of this with your existing blaster and make it into something really cool. Maybe for a more in-depth project, I'll try that, but if you want to give it a shot, let me know. I definitely want to see pictures of it, but I feel like you could dismantle this, put it all internal if you have a blaster with enough space, and then just side mount this or something, and it would look really cool. So let me know if you decide to do it. If not, maybe I'll give it a try. But let's go ahead and test this out real quick so you can see sort of how it works. I mean, it's very straightforward, but I want to show you it anyways. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. So here's our screen, and we can turn it on. There's a count down and a count up option, and it'll show you how many darts you've set it for and how many feet per second. Now, I bumped this up to above 200 darts, and it kept going, so I'm going to assume you can probably do 999, but I don't know. But you can do at least 200. Now, I think most people are probably only running through, you know, 5, 10, 15, 25, 50 darts, so it shouldn't be an issue. But if you're playing a game and you wanted to use this as a counter where, I don't know, say Post-Apocalyptic, you found like 43 rounds and that's all you had to shoot through your blaster, you could set at 43, count down, and then you know when you're out of darts, and that way you don't have to keep counting them actually in your little cartridges. So, you know, or belts, or however you're feeding your blaster. So I think that's one way you could use this to your advantage with those higher numbers. You know, if you say, well, hey, you guys only got 186 rounds, punch in 186 on this, and that's how many rounds you got, you know, for the event or whatever. And you can always add or subtract. Of course, a lot of honesty required there, but you can do it. Now let's go ahead and we'll go ahead. I'm going to do the count down instead of count up feature. And let me just show you how it works. You can see that if it sits for a while, the illumination stops. So it's not giving away your position and stuff. But once you start firing, it'll light back up. So let's go ahead and spool this up and see what our measurements are. So you can see that it dropped down to 5 and 49.9 feet per second. 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can see now we're out of darts because I only loaded 6. And the highest reading I got on there was 53.5 feet per second coming out of this blaster. So I think that's pretty cool. You know, you can also take an average. I mean, this one, you know, you could hear it spooling up. So it was shooting, you know, in the 40s, maybe low 50s. And, you know, that's pretty much it as far as what it does. So in conclusion, I would highly suggest picking one of these up. I think it's very cool, and I think it's a very useful attachment that Nerf actually made. And you know, the readings, they seem to be pretty accurate, but even if they're not, if you're playing just for the fun of it and it's just for a sci-fi type thing or whatever, it's still a really cool attachment. And even if the counter, you know, gets off or something, I mean, it's still just really cool to have. Now, like I said, if you're using this to try to measure safety and things like that, this should still give you a really accurate portrayal of what you're dealing with. However, I'm not entirely sure if this works with modded darts and how well it works with modded blasters. And I've heard that as long as you can attach it on there, it does measure modified darts, and it will work with blasters, you know, like I said, that shoot up to maybe 300 feet per second. However, blasters with really high cyclical ranges, so if you're shooting 4 or 5 darts a second, so if you're like just really shooting them out, I think it has a hard time keeping up with those fast moving blasters. But if you're playing with something stock off the shelf or with some light mods, then I don't think you're gonna have any type of issue at all with this attachment. The trick is just making sure that you find a blaster that has the right type of barrel, because not all blasters have this style of tip on there. And mine is actually really tight for some reason, but you know, I'm not sure if that's how all of them are, but when I put this on here, there's almost no way it's falling off. So a little bit of comfort if you're swinging this thing around or carrying it, you're probably not going to lose this. But yeah, I would definitely suggest checking this out, picking yourself one up. Like I said, you can find them online right now real cheap. You can check out, you know, department stores online or just search for it and it should probably come up. And like I said, I think I've seen them for like $8. But like I said, if you catch them on sale, you might be able to get a good deal like I did. And yeah, if you get one and decide to modify it any further than I have here with the paint, then please let me know. I'd love to see what you end up doing with it, especially if it's something wildly customized where you install it inside of a blaster or something. I'd love to see that. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Always here making awesome content for you. If you'd be so inclined, I have a Ko-Fi, Patreon. Any little bit helps support the channel. I only really need one coffee bought for me or 2 patrons at $1 to make a video like this. So every little bit really does help. And I appreciate the support from my current patrons and anyone that buys me coffees. And of course, as always, adventure on.